Hi, I'm going to show you how to make my homemade granola today. So let's get started. So I have here 1/2 cup of vegetable oil. This is canola oil, but you could use any kind of neutral type oil is fine. I have a 1/3 of a cup of maple syrup, and this is pure maple syrup. I would not suggest using something like breakfast syrup or anything like that. This is 1/3 cup of brown sugar, light or dark is fine, and 4 teaspoons of vanilla. And lastly, this is 1 teaspoon of kosher salt. I like kosher salt versus table salt. It's a little coarser. So if you're using regular table salt, then just use about half that much. So like a half teaspoon of regular table salt or a teaspoon of kosher salt works fine. And you just want to whisk this up to incorporate the oil and all the other ingredients together. And once that's all whisked up and put together, it just takes about 30 seconds to really get it mixed up nicely. So that's sort of what you're looking for, just so it's like all homogeneous. And just put that aside. So I have here 5 cups of just old-fashioned rolled oats. I would not suggest using quick cook or steel cut oats, just plain old-fashioned rolled oats. These are Quaker rolled oats that I use in this. And I'm going to add to that 2 cups of almonds. And this is probably what I think the most important part of making the granola come out well is to hand cut the almonds. It takes a little bit of time, but it's definitely worth it. You don't want to put them in a food processor, they'll get too mushy. You could use slivered almonds, but you get that nice crunch and texture by using these whole almonds. So we're going to chop these up and put them in, mix them in with the oats here. You just want to mix these 2 items, the almonds and the oats, sort of mix them up to get them kind of all distributed nicely. Just like that, nothing big, no big deal. Then we're going to take the liquid that we put together before, the sweeteners and the oil, and give it another little whisk before you dump it into the oats. And then once that's done, you can just dump all the syrup and oil and so on into the mixture. And you want to just take some time to make sure this gets mixed in as well as possible. It takes a little bit of patience to make sure you get as much of the oats coated as you can. So this is a half-sheet rimmed baking sheet, and I've put a piece of parchment paper in there, and I'm just going to dump the granola just into the rim sheet. And by the way, I've preheated my oven to 325 degrees and put the rack on the middle position. I'll make a note at the beginning of this to do that in the video, but it's 325 is where you're going to cook this granola. Okay, and just spend a moment to spread it out nice and evenly. Get all the way into the corners and smooth that out as best you can. And then I think one of the things that makes this granola taste so good is the crunch. And that crunch partially comes from not stirring the granola at all while it's cooking. And I also take a metal spatula and I press it down to really pack it in tightly. And I just do this a couple of times, going down at one time like this, pushing down with a decent amount of pressure, and make sure I get it all the way into the corners. And then I go back and just press it one more time to make sure it's well packed into the rimmed baking dish. And now we're ready to put it in the oven. Okay, sorry about the lighting, but I've got my oven at 325 and I put the rack into the middle position, as you can see here. And I'm just gonna grab my granola over here and slide it in onto the middle tray, like that. There it is. All right, so we have the granola in the oven for the first 25 minutes. And in 25 minutes, I'll rotate the pan 180 degrees and cook it for another 25 minutes, and then it'll be ready to cool.